Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another mildly interesting video, and don't mind me, I'm just here sipping my own beer. I'm practically a grown-up now, I have to actually start acting like one, but that also means I cannot watch the old kid shows. I don't have enough time for 45 episodes of wholesome fun. I have to watch the new reboots, the stuff that gets straight to the point of the story. That's why I'm currently watching... Are you kidding me? Sailor Moon is easily one of the biggest anime shows out there. Almost everyone that I remember in the 1990s when they were a kid, they watched the show from the beginning to the end. So naturally, of course, it made a lot of money because of that. And I guess Toei's decided that they needed more money from the franchise because in 2014, they released Sailor Moon Crystal, the rebooted version of the original series. No filler, no wholesome stuff, just straight down to the plot. And honestly, I don't really know how it went, to be honest. I don't think I was really that active in 2014. I guess I was just too busy stacking cups. But when you check the ratings on my anime list, yeah, that's a little disappointing. What happened over here? Well, after watching the entire first season, I could definitely say that 7.07 score definitely has some merit to it. There are just a couple of things that overall make this okay to watch. There is some value over here, especially when you've watched the original source material. But still, it can definitely feel like a step down in some parts. And unfortunately, those are the parts that pretty much matter the most. So, let's begin. Why not? Part 1, the visuals. This is the main elephant in the room when you're talking about Sailor Moon Crystal. You cannot ignore the visuals of this anime. And that's because they're off in a few different ways. The shading feels off, the overall animation style feels off, some of the walk cycles can feel a little off. Usagi's hair is stiff as a rock for some reason. Now, I understand the motive behind this. I get the Toei animation is trying to mimic the old manga style of Naoko Takeuchi when making this new reboot, because it's meant to be more of a manga adaptation rather than telling its own story like the old 90s anime did. And to be fair, the art style can produce some pretty amazing results. I remember there's this one scene in episode 4 where Usagi and Mamoru are jumping off like Mary Poppins off a balcony with an umbrella at the back. And it genuinely looks amazing. It looks really beautiful. It's really something that the old anime art style couldn't really mimic. There's also the music video for the opening song, and it genuinely looks incredible. It's really smooth, it's really fluid, it genuinely looks really, really beautiful. It's amazing. But for the most part, everything else just feels like you can watch it, but why would you? It just feels really off. But there are the transformation sequences, and that is where the animation style really flunks. It looks off. It feels more stuttery. It feels like the quality of the pixels drop. The movement feels weird. The shading feels weird. The textures of Usagi and actually all of the Sailor Scouts, they all feel weird. A transformation sequence is meant to be graceful. It's meant to be elegant. It's meant to be watchable. It's meant to be smooth. And these transformation sequences are neither of those. They're pretty much excruciating to watch to the point that every time they pop up, I just mute the video, turn around, I just like play on my game or something, and when I turn around, boom, there they are. And the animation is pretty much back to just watchable. So overall, the entire animation style feels very mediocre. Like, you could watch through it. It does have some good results, but it also provides some really bad results. So overall, I feel like all of these things cancel each other out to the point where I would consider the animation quality to be like a slice of plain bread. Like, you could eat plain bread, but what is wrong with you? It's overall pretty forgettable, but there is one element of it that I have really never really seen anywhere else, and that is choir. The choir parts can be genuinely amazing, they can be majestic, they can be wonderful, they can be uplifting. Which is why it's so funny to me when they keep playing in the transformation sequences, because it's genuinely something good paired with something genuinely very bad in my opinion. Then there is the opening song. It's a genuine banger. It's amazing. It has a lovely beat. The vocals are amazing. And overall, at the very least, it doesn't feel like two singers trapped in an echo chamber in the pool 40 feet below, given only $5 to make an opening song for a low-budget anime that they were going to make in 1992. That was the original Sailor Moon, by the way, and that's how I describe the opening. Please don't sue me. Part 3, the characters. Usagi is dumber than my carpet. You give her a game controller, she's gonna try to use the back of it as a soap dish. But besides that, I really like how the romance between Usagi and Mamoru is handled. It really feels natural. Every single plot beat that we see actually moves the romance forward. It feels really natural. It feels like, okay, this is actually real. These are actually two people that are genuinely falling in love with each other and are willing to do anything for the other person. And all of the other characters have their own little defining quirks as well as their own different personality traits. We get to see more of that in Season 2, but not that much in Season 1 in my opinion. But overall, they're not as one-note as one may first think. They actually have some depth to them, and it does make them slightly interesting to watch. And then then episode 9 comes along. So here is a mild spoiler that I'm pretty sure most of you have heard of Sailor Moon, probably already heard, but Usagi is actually the princess of the Moon Kingdom, the reincarnation to be more exact. But from that point on, in season 1, every single other character treats Usagi like a MacGuffin, a living MacGuffin. She doesn't really do anything for herself. All of the other characters just immediately throw their lives on the line for her. You could argue that that's more natural. It's really just more like them protecting their friend. And that does make sense. I can see how this would fit. But this still does not change the fact that Usagi is now pretty much almost doing nothing when it comes to the show, at least not as far as I remember. It's not until the final standoff between Queen Metalia and Usagi herself that we actually get to see something really rewarding. And it is extremely rewarding with what she does. It's an amazing thing. I'm not going to spoil the entire battle sequence, but suffice to say, it was really satisfying. But everything before that, from episode 9 to the final episode of season 1, she gets treated as a living MacGuffin, which kind of makes it a drag to watch, because the main character of our show, the literal titular character, is not doing anything, at least not as far as I can remember. And at this point, it felt like the show dropped its quality from being like plain bread to eating rocks. Like, yes, you can eat a rock. But why? Part 4, the plot. It's pretty much the same as before. Usagi is a dumb 14-year-old who realizes that she is destined to become Sailor Moon and to save the entire universe. Please spot the differences. Actually, there is one difference over here. Whereas the older one felt more like friends with a side of supernatural disasters, this one is all about the supernatural disasters with a side of friends. The old anime format worked as a Monster of the Week format, slowly leading up to the big bad at the very end of this first season. But here, the plot moves so much faster because they cut out all of the fillers, all of the monsters that were not in the original manga. It took us 11 episodes from the old anime to actually fight off against Jadeite, whereas here it only took us 3 episodes. So it makes for a much smoother and much faster watch. You get the full idea and gist of the plot and the romance that is going on in a much faster pace. And overall, it makes for a much smoother watch. Assuming you're blind, of course. So overall, the anime definitely is watchable. You can watch, there's plenty of good moments here, but there's also some not so good moments. It kind of feels like some parts were stepped down from the original 1992 series, whereas some parts were like greatly elevated. I can understand Toei's motivation behind this. They're trying to stick to the original art style for their old fans, the ones who were with the series from the 90s. And I can completely understand why they would want to go to that old design. But the way that they translated it over to screen was honestly pretty botched pretty badly. Everything just kind of looked weird in many ways. And while the theme song and the flow of the story and the romance is definitely a step up from the before, the visuals just kind of bring that down overall. And it gets to the point where it feels like you're just eating plain bread. Like, you can eat plain bread, but why would you eat plain bread? And on top of that, Bing Dong Beer pulled a fast one on me. This isn't even alcoholic beer. This was just carbonated water!